if we could just recall, it got a bit crazy when we were trying to find the surface area of trapezium prisms and all that sort of stuff, but it then, hopefully you agree, came down a notch in degree of difficulty when we were looking at cylinders, okay? So we should have our 3 formulas for the cylinder, and do we remember why have we got 3 different formulas? Well, they can be different cylinders. What do you mean? Like, they can all be different dimensions, because then there's infinite many.
There's different number of faces, like...
Different number of faces, that's right. So what would be one?
Hollow.
Okay, so hollow doesn't have a top or a bottom. We said that's when they go full on Maslin's Beach. No top, no bottom. And then you could have just one of them, so just we would say just the bottom. And then, of course, we can have, when we have both of them, the top and the bottom. So it makes sense, I hope you feel that it makes sense, that this formula here, this is the top and the bottom, because that bit there, the 2 pi r squared, that's 2 circles. Agreed, Taylor? So one circle is pi r squared. We've got 2 circles, so 2 pi r squared. So all we have to remember is this is the curvy bit. All right, so that's that bit around there. And then our 2 pi r squared there is the bottom and the top. Top and bottom, because that's the circle. Do we agree? Ethan, we good? Now, Aiden, eyes this way. So I want to go through 3 different questions, just one just to remind you, so I don't think you're going to have to copy down this one unless you haven't got one in your book already. The yellow one, and then we're going to do a green one. Just going to do that. Keep that, because there will be similar questions that you might be able to use to help you finish off the questions on OneNote after you've done your 3D shapes. Agreed? Okay, so your call. You don't have to copy down this one if you don't want to. Oops. That's gone up. Bad luck. That's gone. So here we go. To copy or not to copy, I'm leaving that up to you. So if it says find the surface area of this cylinder, we're going to assume that it's got the top and the bottom. If it doesn't tell you otherwise, we're assuming top and bottom. So straight away, what does a good mathematician do? Silence in the class. Okay, we've drawn the bottom. Don't we have to choose, like we look? What's the 10? Right, so we've got the radius is 10. What's the 6? The height. So then once we've got that, how do we find the surface area? We just look for the formula. Hands to ourselves. So your big decision is which formula you're writing down. We've just said it's top and bottom, so everyone happy we'd write this down? Right, no dramas. 2 times pi times the height, radius height, plus 2 pi r squared. Now, can I ask you, please always write your formula down. And then the next line, you've got your information here, you just sub it straight in. And I think we all agree that this means your work is pretty much done and it now becomes calculator. Some of you are still struggling to use your calculator. I know you frown at me, but I see it. So this becomes use it quickly. We're working towards having a test. We have to do volume after this, and then we have a test, and that's going to be around week 9, week 10, so it gets into your report cycle for term 1, sort of. So we pop that into our calculator. I will do that on the board in a minute because I can see you're not writing it down, which is fine because we've already got these examples on board, and we'll check that everyone can use their calculator. This yellow one is a different kind of question. But if we follow the same techniques, we're going to see that it should make sense as to what mathematics we do. So can I ask you to put today's date, which you should have already done, put this maybe example with a bold heading. And if you are struggling to draw a cylinder, I'll just go through that with you. Who knows how to draw a cylinder? Oh, a few hands. Good. I do it like, do the oval, parallel, parallel, and then I try and follow this underneath. Make it fancy by putting the dotted line at the back. Pretty simple. So try that. Write down your information, and then away we go. So good mathematicians, what do? They've given us the surface area. They say we need to find the height. Do we know the radius? Yep, it's 8, so we pop that down. What are some of the tricks, Diesel, that we can play? And we go, oh, instead of giving you the radius, I could give you the diameter. So yeah, instead of giving you 8, I could have given you 16. But you wouldn't fall for that. You'd go, radius is still 8. Got it? So always look. Again, they haven't told us if it is hollow, if it's got a top or got a bottom. So we're going to assume it's got top and bottom. Agreed? So we have information. What's the first thing that we need to do? Write our formula. So we are going to pop surface area 2 pi RH plus 2 pi r squared. If you are organised, if you do the same things over and over, and this doesn't just apply for measurement, this is all your maths that you're going to do all year, right? We're going to see several formulas come our way. So now, sub. SA. Every other question that we've done before, we have actually been finding the surface area. Agreed? But this question, haven't they given us the surface area? Yes, they have. So instead of writing SA again, we're going to write the answer for surface area. So we're going to pop that in. We're going to say underneath 1005.31. You will get to questions next week where instead of surface area, they might give you volume. They might give you both. So you've got to be really careful with writing stuff down. You just can't put, Jules, you just can't put a number somewhere and not label what it is. Really careful. All right, so now what comes here? Well, 2 times pi times, do I know what the radius is? Pop that in. Sadly, I don't know what h is. That's what I'm trying to find. Plus 2 times pi. Once again, I do know what the radius is. It is 8, so I pop 8 squared. Now, I'll be honest with you, I reckon in your old textbooks that we were using, this would have been a year 10 question, not a year 9. But I think you're quite capable of doing. So far, do we agree? We could have picked the formula? Yes? We could have substituted our information in? Yes? Okay, this is the chap we are trying to get to. And so what our plan is we have to get rid of all the other stuff around it. So this is going to be the first to go. Anyone know why the plus has to go first? We do have to change it to a minus, but why are we getting rid of that first? Why are we getting rid of this first and not the times 8, the times pi, and the times 2? Yeah, because that doesn't have the height in it, it's out of it. And when you're doing order of operations, bed maths, we've got to do the timesy first. Now, because we're reversing, we do that last. Okay, so this is out of the game. We want to get rid of it. And Zach, absolutely, to get rid of a plus, we are going to minus. Now I'm going to give you a choice. Do we want to just leave it like this, or do you want to go and work that out on your calculator? Do you? Remember, pi is a icky answer. So when I work out 2 times pi times 8 squared, would you rather write 2 times pi times 8 squared, or would you write 402.1238597? Shorter one? Yeah. And that is even better because it's exact. So what we're going to do is we're going to say the 1005.3, and like you guys told me to get rid of this plus, I'm going to take. And I took it from both sides. Remember a little bit of algebra from year 8? What you do to one side, you've got to do the other. So I've taken it from the right-hand side. That's why I've taken it from the left-hand side. I'm left with 2 times pi times 8 times h. Let's even put that in a different colour. Yeah, baby. You are now one step away from finishing this problem and making the calculator do all the work. Because all you have to do is think about, well, I don't want all of this times. I don't want that times. So your big, hard decision, how do we undo what is the opposite of timesing? You go with your first gut, well done. The opposite of timesing is dividing. Do you agree? So we're going to divide this whole side by that monstrosity. But what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. And like to keep it simple, if I had 10 equals 2 times h, right? To get h by itself, you're saying get rid of the times 2, you would? We divide that by 2. The whole reason we divided by 2 was they cancel. But what I do to one side, I do to the other. 10 divided by 2 is 5, and we know 2 5s are 10, right? Here, it's not a simple 2. It's that whole times pi times 8, but I can get rid of and divide the whole thing. So I can do this. I can go 1005.31 minus 2 times pi times 8 squared, and I'm going to divide the whole thing by that. So again, I reckon this is probably a year 10 question. But it lobs up in some of your work. But all that can happen is they can just change the numbers. They're not going to ever give you the height and ask you to find the radius. Well, I hope not, because that's a little bit too tricky for you guys. So, information, pop formula, sub into formula. That is 2 out of your 4 marks already. Do something. Do some sort of algebra, right? Get rid of the plus, you subtract. Get rid of the times, you divide. And now, can you use your calculator properly? Let's give it a go. Pop it in and see what happens. All right. What do you think the question will be? Find the surface area of this shape. Now, it could be that it is a hollow drinking trough, you know, like the cattle come up. It could be that it is something in your yard and it has the top enclosed on top. So we're going to say closed top. Let's do closed top. So if I want to get the surface area of this, do we agree that we've got half a cylinder, but we also have the top, which is a rectangle? Okay, so here we go. Do I know, what do we need to know for the cylinder? 2 bits of information we need. Cylinder, radius and height. So do we have the radius and height of our cylinder? Mills, what's our radius? 3.5. Now, again, up to you. Emma, you might just want to go, I'm writing 7/2. You might want to stick with 3.5. I don't mind. But why is it 3.5 and not 7? Correct. That's the diameter. So half. What's the height? 18. Correct. Just because it's lying flat doesn't mean, you know, the height's different. So the height is 18. Pardon? Oh. And then if I'm adding on my rectangle, what do I need to find the area of a rectangle? Length and width. Yep. And? Yep. So we have the length is 18 and the width is 7. We all good with that? We're very happy, I like to think, even though you're not smiling too much at me, but that's all right. Bless you. I go in, guns blazing, easy. Cylinder, surface area formula. Wait before you write it down. We're doing top and bottom, so the surface area is 2 pi r times h plus 2 pi r squared. Am I good? No, most of you are nodding your head. 1, 2 are shaking because that's giving me a whole cylinder. I just want half. Correct, I just want half. So I need to divide by 2. So I have to divide that by 2. So people who have your fraction button, right? Because the question was, do I have to put it in brackets? People who have a fraction button, this automatically puts a bracket around the top line. Some of you have got calculators that when you do your fraction button, it looks like this. Yeah. So for you, what you would have to do when you pop that in, you actually have to put a bracket around that. But if you don't have the little L, if you have the top down, bottom down, then you don't need to put those extra brackets in. Does that make sense? So that's why it's so important that you bring your own calculator. Why you need to bring your own calculator so I can teach you how to use it. Okay, so because you have now done all the hard work, you've looked at your diagram, you put your radius here, you've put your height, you've got your length and width, all you have to do now is sub, and right, and then calculate. Organisation. If you don't write it down, you might accidentally look at a different question in your textbook and put the wrong radius in. How many times have I seen that happen? Quite a lot. So 2 times pi times 3.5 times your height, which is 18. If you're talking to the person next to you while you're doing this, right, then you will forget a number. You will put just times 3.5 and you forget the 18. So you do have to actually concentrate. And by the way, for those who are up with it, can you see how both of these have got a 2 in it? So I didn't actually have to write all those 2s if I didn't want to. You could have just written pi times. I don't want to confuse other people. Millimeters. So let's check. Let's see everybody use their calculator.